All right, welcome to the Gaming Lounge Podcast, episode 22. Once again, I'm your host, Sebastian, and I'm joined by Dory. How's everything going, Dory?
Everything's going great. Dog from Wukong is my favorite harmacist of all time. I was going to quote him, but I couldn't find any good quotes online. But I love his voice actor. We'll talk about it more when we talk about Wukong. But anyway, yeah, I'm doing great. I'm just petting my dog, hoping he doesn't start barking, so this podcast is listenable. But yeah, how you doing?
I've been enjoying week 1 of college football season. I've been watching football all day today. Best time of the year. I love the fall. Not just because of football, but like the weather gets better and the Halloween season because we're right around the corner. I really enjoyed watching Miami smoke the Gators, which is a rival of my favorite team, and in Gainesville. That was awesome, and that's why we're recording a little late. That's why my background is so dark. It's like almost 8 o'clock at night. I appreciate Dory for waiting, but that game was like too important for me to miss because that is like that is one of the biggest rivals that we play. We don't get to play them every year, and there was a lot of trash talking all week. So I'm glad that we came out on top by like 3 scores. So,
Wow.
but in terms of video games, we have some. There's a lot of news this week. Like we could have had like 15 to 20 topics. Obviously, we don't want to do a 5-hour podcast because some podcasts that I watched this week were like 5 hours long because there was so much to talk about. We decided to break it down in half and talk about some of the stuff next week, possibly, assuming that next week's not as insanely stacked. I hope not. I mean, because like we need a break, and the second of all, like it's Labor Day weekend, so you think things are going to be slowing down this week because there was just so much to talk about. But we have a mix of good news and bad news. So we're gonna start off with something negative, with the Concord disaster, a major disaster. It's like the Hindenburg disaster for Sony, because Concord was like a huge first-party multiplayer game for them. They've been hyping it up to an extent because they didn't market it very well, but it was at their state of play, and it was huge. It was like they really wanted to push it. Helldivers 2 was a huge success for them. Sony has been pushing live service games, and they thought this was going to be the next big service game for them, and it turned out it wasn't. Although I'm starting to wonder if Sony even had faith in this game in the first place, but we'll talk about that. For starters, what am I talking about? So Concord came out last week, and I think at its peak, it was like, according to IGN, I think it was like 697 concurrent players. And if you know anything about numbers, that's like horrendously low for this kind of game. Like, I mean,
I've been to high school. I've been to schools that have had more people than that.
Yeah, I go to I teach at a middle school, and we have 3 times the amount of people than that. And that's a complete disaster. I mean, that's literally dead on arrival. I mean, obviously, literally, I don't mean it's literally dead, but it's like that's like as dead as you can get for a video game on this scale. Like that's like nobody's playing. Like I know Dustborn had major issues too, but this is like this overshadowed that because this was such a disaster for everybody involved. So according to IGN, their article, they said when they checked, it was like 130 people were playing it. Like that's how low it got. Only 130 people. That's absolutely insane. There's no data for the PS5 side, but it's unlikely that it's super busy on PS5 either. And Steam's usually an accurate representation of gamers playing a game. If it's not doing well on Steam, then it's likely not doing well anywhere. It's very unlikely it's kicking off on PlayStation 5 and not doing well on PC. Because you would think this game would be a huge hit for PC if it was a huge hit. So continuing on, IGN quotes Matt Piscatella, the Circana player engagement tracker. They said Monday, August 26th, so 5 days ago, quote, Concord ranked 147th in the United States PS5 daily active players across all titles, with fewer than 0.2% of Monday's active PS5 players playing the game. And analyst Simon Carlis, who authors the GameDiscover.com newsletter, estimated that Concord's total sales are sitting around 10,000 units on Steam and around 15,000 on PlayStation. So it only sold 15,000 on PlayStation and only 10,000 on Steam. Compare that to Black Myth Wukong, which sold 10 million in 3 days. So we'll discuss it after, but there's a couple more things. It was in development for 8 years. They started working on it like 2016, which around the time Overwatch came out. There's a lot of reasons why people blame the failure of this game. First of all, this market is oversaturated, as we talked about in the past with Dory and I. The hero shooters, there's just so many of them. The second one was that it suffered really poor marketing. The $40 price tag was a lot. I think $40 is fine for a good multiplayer that has a actual base and stuff. Like Helldivers, I thought was a fair price. $40 was a fair price for it. But in this game, I could see why people would have preferred it to be free to play. And then it just didn't lack any differentiation from like other shooters. Like nothing about it stood out that like wanted people to play it. Like everybody, and I mean like literally everybody had like a collective sigh when they saw that the game was a hero shooter. I mean everybody was really digging the CGI trailer on the State of Play.
Yeah.
Like they had the Guardians of the Galaxy vibe. It was really cool. The characters were very interesting. And then it shifted to a multiplayer like shooter in the gameplay, and everybody was just like, ugh. And it got massive dislikes right off the bat. So I like to keep an open mind about games, so I didn't want to like judge it, but like that. But I had the same thought. I was like, this is not what I want. And then and that's exactly what happened, right? Like I think they totally missed what people wanted. I think first of all, Sony fans prefer single player, cinematic, Hollywood style, Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima, God of War kind of games. They don't really want to play a hero shooter. But that doesn't mean that like Sony shouldn't take risks, but they should. But something that tells me that Sony expected this game to fail, because behind the scenes they were kind of like mediocre on it. They probably just wanted to get out there. Because like they really did put zero marketing into it, like they really didn't hype this up at all. And so I
think I remember seeing it at like one PlayStation show, maybe two.
Yeah, right. And not only that, but like a lot of people said it was $40 is just too much for this kind of game, considering the market that all the hero shooters that come out are all free to play.
Right.
So like, for to be $40 more than everybody else, you really have to stand out and look incredible. And this game obviously did not do that. I mean, look at Marvel Rivals. That got some buzz. People are excited about it in December, and that's totally free to play with all the heroes, as we talked about last week. So it's just like they didn't read the room correctly, and I feel like, and this frustrates me because I feel like this is a perfect example of where like people at the top, because people making the decisions, not the devs, because the artists and the devs, this is not on them because they're just making a game.
Right.
That they just like totally misread the room and misread the audience, and then these bad decisions are what lead to layoffs and studio closures, and people lose their livelihood because of bad decisions like this. It's just very frustrating. It's like how do you work on this for 8 years and not realize like you're making a mistake, basically. It's like
8 years. That's crazy.
Yeah, like there's got to be more to it than that. I can't imagine they've really been working on this for 8 years. Like everything about it just looks so unimaginative. Like the character designs are terrible. Like I heard some people having fun playing with the gameplay, but I just think the designs are terrible. Although I did see like a 2D version of the characters, like that was like animated, like anime kind of thing, and they looked significantly better. The realism, they didn't look as good in like realistic graphics. Like they looked better like in a more cell shaded 2D, like different kind of style than like a realistic style. They didn't translate well, basically, to live action, in my opinion. But it's unfortunate. I won't go on too much longer. It's just I just find the whole thing to be unfortunate. I'm not celebrating its death, and I'm not dancing on its grave. I just think it's a great example of just misreading the audience, and it's a shame because I would have liked to see a new game. be successful. And then only that, I think this is I'm glad that Sony's pivoted away from these live service games. They're still working on them, of course, but like they were working on like 12 at a time. There was that time when they were literally like every studio was like working on a live service game, and I'm glad they were getting away from that. But even working on like 6 of them are still like absurd amount. There's nothing wrong with working one or two because they can be successful. Like Helldivers is successful, but having everybody work on one, that's just insane. So
yeah, I've actually been talking to one of my friends, and she is like one of those like 600 people who is playing, and you know, she says she really likes the gameplay and she's having a lot of fun with it. But she's like the community is just really obviously lacking. But yeah, I mean, I just feel bad for people like her because it's like there's apparently some good stuff in here, but it's paywalled behind a $40 game that should be free to play. That didn't look particularly impressive, but yeah, I don't know. This game is just probably dead, and there's not much people can do about it. But like Seb said, you know, neither of us are celebrating it. It's just a shame. I agree that I don't think there's anything wrong with like trying to develop one or two free to play games or you know, multiplayer games or whatever. But I mean, just taking the complete wrong lessons from Helldivers, or at least not applying the lessons you learned from Helldivers, even if it was late in development. I mean, at least make it free to play, or you know, I hate to say it, but geez, even microtransactions look preferable to $40 and 600 people showing up, right? And I don't support microtransactions; I don't like them. But I mean, even from a company standpoint, it's got to be preferable to this. What ended up happening. So I wouldn't be surprised if they walk that price back or have it really soon, or maybe they just stick to their guns and it just stays dead. But yeah, it's a shame. Apparently there's some good stuff in here, but you know, I'll never know.
yeah, I mean this game is dead and it's not going to be fixed. But what they should try to do is make it free to play or at least put it on PS Plus. Like
right.
like it should have been on PS Plus from day one. Like
right, it should have been free to play and on PS Plus, or half the price maybe and on PS Plus. I don't know, like some kind of deal.
So
yeah.
So I have a feeling that's what's going to happen, and then I'll try it out. I'll keep an open mind. Maybe I'll enjoy it, but I'm just not a live service fan generally. Like I'll play a game and I'll enjoy it for like a couple hours, maybe 5 hours max, and then I get tired of it. Helldivers is the only exception. I played that like 25, 30 hours, and it's my top 5 games of the year, and it's probably going to be nominated for Game of the Year. I'd be shocked if it does not get nominated for Game of the Year. Because it was talked about for like 2 months straight. It was like one of the biggest games of the year. All right, so that's I don't want to obviously I'm not a big fan of starting off with a negative note, but I just wanted to point it out because it was a big news story for the last 2 weeks. I saw a lot of posts about it, a lot of articles about it, so I just wanted to hit on it. So let's get back into more positive news. So the Expedition 33 had a gameplay reveal at Gamescom, I believe, right? Gamescom.
Yes, correct.
And Dory, you definitely wanted to talk about this, so I'll let you carry this topic first. So
I was already really excited about this game because the trailer looked awesome, and I've already talked before about how a lot of the devs behind it have a lot of really good taste in video games. Notably, one of the devs is really into Kingdom Hearts 2, and this is more turn-based. Definitely some very sleek UI reminiscent of Persona. But I just love the look. It's a very interactive turn-based RPG, kind of similar to the Paper Mario series, where you have to press certain buttons at certain times to guard or to attack. But it looks so flashy and it looks really good. Even the creative director of the game told Eurogamer that he was expecting, you know, turn-based fans to stand up and say, "Oh, this looks cool," but wasn't expecting the community to be this excited. He likened it to Awakening a Sleeping Dragon. It just looks really good. The combat looks excellent. We also know now, if we didn't know before, that there's some really good VA talent. Ben Starr from Final Fantasy 16 is in there, as well as I forget her name. She plays Shadowheart in Baldur's Gate. I believe her name is Jennifer. I can't remember her last name. But she's also in the game, so that's very exciting. We don't know a lot about the story, but it just looks very impressive from a technical standpoint. The gameplay just looks really good. The UI looks really clean. It's like every time, like I'm looking at the trailer right now, but it's like every time you do an action, like it will tilt the screen to like where you want it to go or where you think it should go.
It's like
to zoom in on like certain UI stuff,
like Persona.
And then you can also like parry, you can dodge. I mean, it's really looking good. This was already like something I was very interested in, and something I was already kind of hyped for. But when I saw this first look gameplay from IGN, it's also from PS5, the PlayStation channel. I was like, this is a must for me. It just looks incredible. I know I've said that a lot, but yeah, Seb, I don't know if you got anything out of that first look gameplay or anything you read from Eurogamer.
Of course. For starters, this game's gonna have your computer fighting for its life, like Black Myth.
Yeah.
This game, that visuals stand like just absolutely stand out, like right off the bat. Like that's what blows me away first and foremost is the visuals look incredible. Like there's a lot of flashy,
very beautiful,
a lot of flashy colors. The environment looks awesome. And it's very unique because I as a big turn-based fan myself, turn-based games usually have like their own like style to them, like an anime style or something like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like I've never really seen a hyper-realistic turn-based game before. Like that's really not done in the sphere sphere. I don't think, are they a Japanese studio or is this a Western game?
No, I believe they're Western. It sounds like they're what? Let's see, Sandfall Interactive are the dev team. I believe they're American, but I could be wrong. They're a French studio. I should have gathered that from their creative director's name. I'm gonna butcher this. Guillaume Brochet.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. But yeah, they are a French studio, so they are Western technically.
Yeah, it definitely looks European if I had to guess.
Yes.
And the name of it is Clear Obscure. So that sounds French.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah, it does. You're right. He said, Broche says that Brochet says, I'm a very big fan of turn-based games, but what was deeply lacking was something that, as you just said, had high fidelity graphics. So they're pretty open about the fact that this is gonna probably be pretty big on your PC. I might play this on PS5 or I might do PC. Like with Wukong, Steam just has a better refund policy, so I might go with them first. But Wukong has made me want to have a better PC because I'll talk about it later. But some of the issues I've had are they're not like game breaking or whatever.
It's
but
time, Dory.
It makes me want to have a what?
It's time to invest in a new PC. It's time.
Yeah, probably. But he mentioned the likes of Persona and Octopath as stylish and nostalgic alternatives, but not something that had high fidelity graphics. So he says, if nobody wants to do it, I will do it. That's how it started.
Yeah, like so. As a big Persona fan, like there's definitely the influence there. Like the camera angles and the UI are straight up.
Sorry about that.
Or straight up from Persona. They're really flashy. You can see the influence there. I could definitely see the Octopath as well. It also borrows from like the Mario RPG or Sea of Stars kind of gameplay where like you smash. I think you smash a button to block and parry.
Correct. Yep.
So I see all the influences there, and so I really like this. I'm totally digging this. This looks like a possible day one game for me. And I'm pretty blown away by it, actually.
Yeah, I am too. This was really surprising. He says he calls it a love letter to classic RPGs.
I see that.
Specifically Final Fantasy and Persona. And then he said, how can we make it more dynamic and integrate real-time elements that people also love? So we came up with a reaction system, which has, a perfect attack as opposed to just a normal attack, and dodging and parrying. Of course, again, none of this is like new to the turn-based RPG, but just how stylish and fluid they've made it, like Eurogamer says, is really impressive. It looks so good. Obviously, as you start out, you're not going to probably be as fluid as the demo is, but it looks so satisfying to dodge an attack or parry, or to get a perfect attack. Everything just looks really good. Eurogamer got to see Brochet play through a demo, showing off both exploration and combat. Enemies are visible in the world, but initiating combat takes players to a battle scene. And they also compared it to Persona 5. I definitely got Persona vibes in terms of the sleek UI, like I said earlier. Characters can freely aim with a gun, not only to shoot weak points, but to interact with the environment during boss battles too. So there might be some unique like environmental ways to defeat bosses. So there's just like a lot of stuff going on here. There's elemental damage. You can prioritize offense or defense. And there are time button prompts like we've talked about. Lots of character customization. I won't go through the whole thing, but there's a lot of really cool stuff here for RPG fans. And last year was me realizing I really like turn-based combat, and that my 9-year-old self needs to shut up and stop being so traumatized over Final Fantasy. So I'm really excited. I'm really looking forward to this. Comes out in 2025, I believe, early 2025. Of course, the soundtrack looks amazing too, but that kind of goes without showing, given it's an RPG. Yeah.
I'm so happy that you are getting into turn-based RPGs, because so many of the best games ever made are turn-based, like Final Fantasy VI and Chrono Trigger and Persona.
Yeah, Chrono Trigger's
there's so many games
Chrono Trigger's on my list.
Octopath Traveler 2. Those are so many games you can play, and I believe this game is coming to Game Pass day one, I believe.
Oh shit! Oh, okay, great. Well, then I'll try it on Game Pass. If it doesn't work well, then I'll probably get it on PS5, just because I really want to support the devs, and also, I mean, this looks awesome.
It was at their showcase, the Xbox showcase.
Yeah, I forgot about that. But that's true. That's right. And I noted it on that episode. I will say one last thing is that, and I actually like this, that there is a spectacular presentation, but there's a kind of trade-off. It appears more limited in scope compared to recent open world giants like FF7 Rebirth and Infinite Wealth.
I see that. It looks linear. Yeah. If I had to guess,
it looks, but I'm fine with that. Honestly, Wukong was pitched as a very linear game. I don't think it's that linear. I think our standard of what's a linear game has kind of shifted, because I wouldn't call Wukong strictly linear. I mean, yes, if you are only doing the main story, yes, it is linear, but chances are you are going to go down an optional path and not even know it, because there's no map.
I would guess this is more linear than Black Myth Wukong, but that's fine with me.
Yes,
I don't mind.
Yeah, and that's fine by me too. I think that's awesome. So,
yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we move on?
I just want to back up the last sentence here. Claire Obscura Expedition 33 had already caught my eye, but now it shot to the top of my most wanted list. I think graphically, gameplay wise, I mean, this is so up my tree in terms of like my interest for video games. If the story delivers too, and I bet it will, then this could be a goatee for me, or at least in the top 5 contention. So I'm really excited for it. I don't know exactly when it's coming out, but I think sometime early in 2025, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, there's no release date yet. All it says is 2025, but maybe I want to guess it's in the first half of the year.
Yeah,
but 2025 is looking insanely stacked. But so we might have to do a top 20 list instead of. So yeah, that. It looks great. I'm probably going to be day one. I'll get it on Steam. The graphics alone sold me. And if this game has amazing gameplay and amazing storyline, or these kind of games usually do, I'm totally sold. Like, they have me. This is very exciting. Like, this actually stands out. Because like I said, there's not many turn-based RPGs that have hyper-realistic graphics and this kind of style. It has a very French style to it. If you look at the character models and stuff,
right?
So it stands out, and I'm excited. All right, you ready to move on?
Yeah.
All right, so we got a lot of Metal Gear news coming up. So for whatever reason, Metal Gear just popped up in the news, and for 2 different reasons. First of all, Metal Gear Solid 4 is apparently coming to PS5, Xbox, and PC. The Konami basically it was like they did like a little tease for it. So like last year we got the Metal Gear Solid collection, which had like Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3, and in the original Metal Gear games. And obviously it wasn't a perfect collection, but if you never played those games before, it's like the most accessible way to play it now. I mean, you can play it anywhere, even on a Steam Deck. So now is the time to play those games if you haven't before. But obviously one of the big things missing is Metal Gear Solid 4. Because Metal Gear Solid 4 is only on PS3 as of now. The only way you can play it is on an emulator or on PS3. So a lot of people have not played Metal Gear Solid 4. And that's one of the best ones in the series. I mean, it has one of the greatest
greatest endings of all
time. And yeah. let me read the article. So IGN was talking to a Konami producer. His name's Noriaki Akumura, who was asked about Metal Gear Solid 4 and a Volume 2. So somewhat a Volume 2 collection. He said in response, Akumura provided what might be one of the most silliest answers about an unannounced project I've ever seen in some time. This is what Kotaku's saying. We definitely are aware of the situation with MGS4. Unfortunately, we don't really say too much at the moment with Volume 1 containing MGS1 to 3, ... You can probably connect the dots. So they all but confirmed that it's coming out. A collection.
I appreciate that they're keeping the spirit of Kojima alive by doing absolutely weird and silly media statements.
Now, Kotaku is assuming that it's going to be Metal Gear Solid 4, Metal Gear Solid 5, and Peace Walker. Peace Walker is a PSP game, I believe.
Yes, it is.
And that's what the collection 2 is going to be. And this is another quote. Right now, we are still internally concerned about what we should be doing for the future of the series. So sorry, we can't really reveal anything at the moment, but stay tuned. So Konami seems to be getting back into gaming more and more. We got Silent Hill 2 is getting a remake, and Metal Gear Solid is getting collections after collections, and Castlevania's got a bunch of collections. So I'm happy that Konami's actually using their IPs, not just using them as pachinko machines. But so this is not really surprising, I guess, because you would assume if the first collection is called Volume 1, that there's probably gonna be a Volume 2. But I'm still happy to hear nonetheless of this news, because Metal Gear Solid 4 is not. It should be played and be more accessible for more people. So this is really good, exciting news. I still haven't played the collection yet. I have it on Steam, but I will when I have the time. Especially on the Steam Deck. I heard that they play really well on the Steam Deck, so I'm excited for that. But how do you feel about this news?
Yeah, I mean, I loved MGS4. I would say it's probably my second behind MGS3. I don't know. I think I played MGS2 and I liked it. I thought it was great, but there was definitely some issues there, just in terms of feeling kind of outdated. But I could be confusing that with a Let's Play series I watched. I can't remember if I played it or I watched somebody play it. But either way, yeah, I mean, I love the Metal Gear Solid franchise. I would feel weird if I didn't like MGS while liking Kingdom Hearts, given how convoluted both those series can be at times. But yeah, I'm sure those people are out there. But for me personally, I would feel weird. But yeah, I love it. I think it's awesome that more people are going to have access to it. That's what I'll always say about stuff like this. I know MGS1 Volume 1 wasn't released under the best conditions, but I believe that they did some patches and stuff to fix it up a little bit. I could be wrong. But I thought they did some work on it to make it a bit more, a bit of an improved experience for players. But yeah, it's great that they're going to be doing that. I'm not surprised that they would pair Peace Walker with those other two games, because if I remember correctly, Peace Walker goes hand in hand with 4 and 5. And yeah, I think playing Peace Walker specifically is going to be a trip, because that was originally a PSP game, like we said, but you're going to be able to play it on a Steam Deck. And so it's going to be a handheld game, but that's on a completely different handheld device. So that's going to be kind of wild. I feel like you don't see that too often in terms of remakes or remasters or collections or whatever. But yeah, I'm always in favor of digital preservation. I'm glad Konami's getting back into video games. Hopefully Silent Hill 2 turns out really well, and so does Delta, which we'll talk about soon. But yeah, I'm pretty positive on this. I honestly, it was always fairly obvious that they were going to come out with a Volume 2. Like you said, why would they call it Volume 1 if there's not going to be a Volume 2, unless there's some kind of like edgy post-rock band or something. So yeah, cool stuff.
All right, so the other Metal Gear Solid news that we got was about Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, the remake of Metal Gear Solid 3, which is my favorite Metal Gear Solid game. And I'm going off IGN's review, hands-on preview or impression of the game, and it seemed like a mix of good and bad from what I'm reading. So for starters, it looks beautiful. The graphics,
right,
on Unreal Engine 5 are really good. It says there's a like the lighting is modern, and the jungle looks really great. The character models and the faces are like real highlight for Metal Gear Solid. But it does the IGN article does say that this is more like a HD shiny remaster than a full on remake. It's not really. It doesn't look like it doesn't look like it's necessarily built from the ground up like other
Right.
remakes. So so take it for what you whatever that means for you. So they said they played a roughly 90-minute virtuous mission. And they said there was a lot of cutscenes and a codec calls, typical Metal Gear, right? And they said Konami used the exact same dialogue from the original game. Like it's just taken from the original game. They didn't like
Oh.
re-record it and use different voice actors. It's just straight up the same exact dialogue, same exact recordings. Is pretty much the same as the first game because, and as they interviewed Nakamura again. He said, "quote We did debate about this internally. He told me maybe we should reskin the game into the current open world type map. But after thinking about this, we should definitely have to basically remake the game from scratch. And by doing so, it could alter other things about the game. And we decided that's not the direction we really wanted to take." So basically, if they changed anything, if they made it open world, the whole game becomes different, and they would have to basically make the whole game from scratch. So Dory, how do you feel about that news? Like, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I was really back and forth about this. A lot of people in the comments were really critical about this preview because they, see people as wanting, there's a popular perception that everything should be the same, but this reviewer was complaining that everything was too much the same. I think everybody has a different point of view on that and how much they can and cannot tolerate. Just like you, I haven't played MGS3 in a long time, so it doesn't really bother me that it's pretty much similar. I do think it's annoying that they haven't scrapped the loading screens. I think you could do that much. Or make the loading screens really, really quick, which maybe they did do. I don't know. They said they didn't. The IGN reviewer didn't specify how fast or how slow the loading screens were, just that there were a lot of them. So, I mean, you would think running on modern hardware that it would be a lot quicker, but I don't know. It doesn't really bother me as much as it bothered the reviewer. I get why he wanted more out of it, but I think it's important to remember that this is a remaster first, not really a remake. It's kind of similar to the Dead Rising remaster. It's done a new shiny coat of paint, some minor gameplay improvements, but it's not a full-on remake. Most of the voice actors are the same. The story's largely the same. I don't think they built everything up from the ground up. I don't know the exact particulars, but it's a lot of the same models and polygons and stuff that they were using before, but just shinier. It's the same thing here.
Yeah,
So I mean, if you wanted a remake, I can see that as being unfortunate, but also I don't really think Konami should mess with what Kojima did, because I think by and large everything about that game holds up. I still think it's an excellent game. I think the couple of changes that they've made are going to make it even better. And it doesn't really bother me. So yeah, I think I'll still get it. I mean, I'll pay attention to reviews, but unless they're like really bad or something, or there's maybe a lot of tech issues, but I don't know. It's Konami, so I'm going to tread carefully, but yeah, I think this still looks really good, and I'm still really looking forward to playing MGS3 again. I will be avoiding the collection because why would I play that if I can just play a new souped up version? So that's my opinion anyway.
yeah. So there is some gameplay changes. I think the Dead Rising comparison is really good because that game, like, obviously they didn't remake it, but it's like it's so much different. Like the remaster, like the graphics and the controls, that it's gonna feel like a different game. And it sounds like this game is the gameplay, the controls are gonna be a lot better. They changed it to a more modern control scheme instead of making it said like obviously the original game feels more like Metal Gear Solid 1, which was a PS1 game. And so they modernized the controls at least, and so that people are gonna like that a lot better. This has more of a contemporary third person shooter, trigger based gun control. That definitely will help. And then also Snake can now crouch walk, which was a feature in the 3DS version, and then the IGN noted that obviously feels like a necessity in a stealth game. So at least the gameplay and the controls feel more modern, which is good news. But overall, IGN noted that this how you feel about the demo and the just remake or remaster rather, is that how well you want it to be close to the original. If you wanted like a full on remake from the ground up where it makes changes and it, does its own thing, like Resident Evil 4 remake or Final Fantasy 7 remake, you're gonna be disappointed. And if you want it to be very close to the original, then you're probably gonna be very happy with this. So that's really what it comes down to, is how much you care about it being similar. And IGN ended with a quote from the producer Akamura. He said, "Quote: He wanted to avoid a situation where the series will be forgotten in time, and the goal of Delta was to, quote, make sure we deliver the game as faithfully as possible so it doesn't take away from the nostalgic aspect." So really, this game was mainly made so people don't forget Metal Gear Solid 3, which I'm not sure people were forgetting it anyway, but I guess they just wanted to put Metal Gear Solid 3 they just wanted to bring it to a modern audience without like, which is kind I see it's weird because they just did a collection with Metal Gear Solid 3, and then this remaster is very similar, so it's just like it's kind of a mixed goals here. It's just a little confusing, but I guess if you're happy with just playing a modern control version of the original game with better graphics, then obviously this is the ultimate version to play, and I can see what they're doing, but it's I would have preferred a full-on remake myself, but it doesn't bother me that it's just a remaster. I'll probably get this day one. Obviously, it's one of my favorite games of all time. It's in my top 30 games of all time. This is the best Metal Gear Solid game in my opinion, and I hope they do this again with other Metal Gear Solid games. So yeah,
I definitely think 2 and 1 could use a full-on remake, especially 1. You could maybe get away with doing this kind of treatment to 2, but I really think probably 1 and 2 both need the remake kind of situation, not just a remaster. Just some of the controls in 1 are very bad, and some of the stealth is just we've come a long way since Metal Gear Solid 1. Like I said, with MGS2, maybe you could remaster it and just do some more fixes here and there than you did for 3. I don't know. I don't know the games by heart, but I think for 3, I think this is fine. I think a lot of it still holds up. Even when I played it, I don't remember when it was. It was on my PS3 or PS4, I forget. But when I played it, it still felt really good for the most part to play. I had issues every now and then in terms of the controls, but I would liken it to Resident Evil 4, the original. Like, yeah, it felt a little clunky at times, but it never like got to me so badly that I was like, oh, well, this game has not aged well at all, right? As opposed to other games like Kingdom Hearts 1, where it really feels janky, especially towards the beginning where you have limited abilities. So I know I'm making like video game comparisons all over the place, but hopefully they make sense.
That's right, though. Yeah. So that is there anything else before I move on that you want to say?
No. I'm with you though. I hope they keep this up. I hope they keep making more, and that they hopefully kind of get it straight about what they want to do. Do they want to do the collections or do they want to do the remasters? They want to do both. I mean, it's like you said, it's a confusing strategy, but hopefully it works out for them and Konami can go back to making good games again. Wouldn't that be wild?
Yes. So hopefully the Silent Hill 2 remake is great and Konami can get back to being a good publisher. Because it's been rough and Konami's been on
very rough.
Konami's been on my shit list for
a
long time, as a lot of people. All right, moving on to some PS5 news. So obviously Dory and I are mainly PC gamers at this point right now. Dory plays a lot of her games on her laptop, and I play a lot of my games on my Steam Deck, on my desktop, my laptop. But so I don't think either of us are going to be buying a PS5 Pro. I'll let Dory say if she is or not, but I don't think so, right?
That I'm gonna what? Sorry,
you're gonna buy the PS5 Pro?
No.
Yeah, exactly. But I still but I still wanted to talk about it because it's obviously big news,
right? And it still is big news. It's still important, and maybe it's a nice upgrade for people who need it.
Yes. So, an article on Dead Labs or Deal Labs, D Labs. Reliable PlayStation leaker Bill Con said that the final name of the mid-gen refresh is indeed PS5 Pro, just like the PS4 Pro. And there was a published sketch of the design of the new console. So it looks like a PS5, right? It looks very similar to Slim, although he noted that it was a little thicker than the Slim. Although this one has 3 lines on the side of the design, and it's white, and it has 2 USB-C ports and a power button on the front. But the big note here was that it did not have a disc drive, so this was digital only, which is not a big deal to me if I was still playing on PS5, mainly because I buy my games digitally anyway nowadays. I don't remember the last time I bought a physical game, to be honest. Because I have all my games on Steam now, and they're all digital, right? So I think Dory's the same way. I think you when you bought your PS5, you got the digital version.
I bought digital. I immediately bought digital.
Yeah, so that's just we're just in that we follow the trend basically. I'm not one of those physical only people. Not that there's anything wrong with that. All right, so the specs leaked online a while back. I think it was last November, or no, in March. So in March, the specs leaked online. I think we talked about it on this podcast, but I'm not sure. But I think we did. The headline improvement are to the CPU. I'm reading off IGN, which is said to be identical to the standard PS5 CPU, but with a high CPU frequency mode. It reportedly amount to a 10% increase to 3.85 gigahertz. The GPU, meanwhile, is said to enable faster rendering and high-quality ray tracing powered by 33.5 teraflops. The standard PS5 offers 10.28 teraflops. However, a direct PS5 to PS5 Pro comparison would work out at around 10.28 versus 16 to 17 teraflops. Of particular interest, the PS5 Pro is said to have an upscaling anti-aliasing solution called PSSR, PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution Upscaling, custom machine learning architecture, and an AI accelerator. Elsewhere, PS5 Pro has a detachable disk drive and 1 terabyte of storage space. The quote souped up refresh is reportedly designed to boost interest in PS5 ahead of the release of Grand Theft Auto 6 in 2025. As IGN reported, there is a lot riding on GTA 6, and not just for Rockstar and Take-Two. Sony has form when it comes to releasing a Pro version of its consoles, of course. The PS4 Pro, for example, launched in November 2016, 3 years after the PS4 came out. PS5 Pro launched this November would come 4 years after the PS5 launched in November of 2020. That was about when we started podcasting on the other channel. The release of the PS5 Pro comes amid declining sales of the PS5 itself. In May, Sony said PS5 sales had peaked after the console entered the quote, the latter stage of its life cycle. So the PS5 is, it's been 4 years. It hit its peak. Now, console generations last 6 or 7 years. So we've hit that. We're past the halfway point. So, for what I'm getting out of this, because, a lot of what I said is probably sounds like Chinese to somebody that doesn't follow hardware stuff. It's not really 33.5 teraflops. It's like, more accurate would be 10.28, which the PS5 is, to 16 to 17. So it's not a giant upgrade. It's a relatively good upgrade. It's like it basically replaces the base model. If you're that interested in getting the best out of a game in the console space, like obviously if you're absolutely obsessed with having the best of the best, then you should be playing on PC. I don't see the point of like expecting like Black Myth Wukong to have 4K ultra settings in 130 frames. Like that's why I have a 4080. Like that's the point of that. But like I don't see why you would expect that on the PS5. So Dory, how do you feel about this? I've been reading I've been throwing a lot of numbers at you. How do you feel about the PS5 Pro? You're muted right away.
I am muted. That's right, and I knew that, and I was testing you. Anyway, one thing that really sticks out to me is just like it's so weird. Like the idea of teraflops sounds terrible because when I think of flops, like I think of a flop, like a movie flopped or something, like failure.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just weird to me. But I'm gonna put some games that we'll talk about.
The funny thing is, teraflops is only used as a marketing term for consoles. Like teraflops is never associated with PC. Like you never hear anyone say, "My PC has 100 teraflops." You know, like that's just like it's like a console buzzword.
Right.
Especially Xbox, they push that with the Series X. Oh my God, the most powerful console ever made. Look at all these teraflops.
Look at all these teraflops flopping all over the place terribly.
More than the PS5, and then meanwhile, Redfall and Starfield and Avowed are all running at 30 frames per second on the most powerful console. But that's despised. Whatever the point is, I can't even talk. So, Dory, so obviously this doesn't do anything for you, but if you
not really.
But if you did have if you didn't have a PS5, would you jump on this, or how would you feel?
I would definitely consider it if I didn't have a PS5. But I mean, I think the last PS5 game I played was Nobody Wants to Die, and I only played that because I knew I wanted to play it, and I didn't think my PC could handle it. And I wasn't aware of like differing refund policies, but I knew I would be into it. Whereas with Wukong, I was like, all right, this is a Souls-like. I think this game looks really well. It's not really a Souls-like. We'll talk about it, but it's kind of a Souls-like, has some Souls elements. So I wasn't sure, but I just don't use my PS5 a lot. I just got Stellar Blade from my partner, and I have to play it on PS5 because it's PS5 exclusive. I'm really excited to play that. I'll probably play it right after I'm done with Wukong, since that's similar in terms of like kind of aping at Souls games. Aping. That was unintentional actually, but I know no one will believe me, and that's fine. So I'm excited to play that. I'm excited to test my PS5 and really get it to, strut its stuff in terms of performance and graphics. But I don't really need a Pro, and I can't. I don't even know many people who have a PS5, let alone people who, really want a Pro right now for Christmas or whatever. So to me, this is a big nothing. Honestly, even when the PS6 comes out, I am honestly just at this point considering just upping my PC and sticking with my PS5 for a few years before upgrading. I don't know, because they love to do exclusives, but I don't know. We'll see. At this point, I feel like there's not going to be any real meaningful difference between the 5 and the 6. Between the 2 and 3, obviously you had a pretty big difference. 3 and 4, sure, to some extent. And then 4 and 5, of course, you had ray tracing and Unreal Engine 4 and 5, et cetera, et cetera. I just don't think it'll be a big deal for me to switch over. We'll see though. If I have the money and it's not a big deal to me, maybe I will. But if I do, it'll definitely be digital at the most.
Like, I've been on PC my whole life, but I've played MMOs my whole life. So I played emulators my whole life on PC. I played my experience with Super Nintendo was on PC. I played Doom, Wolfenstein, Quake, all their classics PC games on PC. But the main games, right? Like where I mainly play games was always on console. This is the first generation where I mainly play on PC. Like I buy all my games on Steam now, and I don't see myself ever going back to consoles now. I am too involved with, I'm too invested basically with PC. I've spent a lot of money on PC. I bought a gaming laptop. I bought a Steam Deck, Rogue Ally, PC. And not only that, but I like playing Black Myth Wukong and like 120 frames per second with ultra settings. I just can't see myself going back to PlayStation. And I would definitely never be an Xbox only gamer either, because if that they all the disasters they have. So I just see myself being a Nintendo and PC gamer going forward, especially if all the PlayStation games eventually come to PC. Now, if PlayStation starts putting their games on PC like 3 years later, then I'll get a PS. I'll always have a PlayStation just to play the exclusives. Like Astrobot, guys, comes out next week. That's something I can't wait to play. Like that's not something I can wait 3 years to play on PC. Like that's something I'll rebuy when it comes out on PC, because I love Astrobots. And so stuff like that. I'll probably have a console. I'm just saying it's not gonna be my main console. PC is gonna be my main platform from now on, for the rest of my life, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm at a crossroads right now. I mean, and I'm mostly leaning towards PC. I think once I do have money, I don't know when that'll be exactly. I'm hoping sometime next year I will be able to afford like a 3080 or something like that. Maybe
Probably get better than that at that point, because it'd be because the 40 series would be cheaper next year.
Okay. So maybe 30s or 40s. Because right now I'm at like a 16. Wukong's having numerous issues. I actually had to install mods just to stabilize it a little bit. But I'll talk about that. Yeah, I mean, I still love my PS5, and anytime I play it, I have a good time. I think it's a great console. But similar to Seb, I've moved away from console gaming. Pretty much everything I want to play is on PC at this point. And it seems silly for me to invest in an ecosystem like Xbox or PlayStation when the PC just has most of what I want. Again, there are always going to be exclusives, and I love Sony's exclusives. I love God of War. I love Spider-Man. The Last of Us is one of my favorite franchises of all time. So it's not like, I don't like Sony anymore or whatever.
No.
But for me and my needs, it seems like the best call is to be more of a PC gamer. But you will never catch me saying PC Master Race, because that shit is cringy as hell. But everybody's got preferences and things that they like about their preferred console.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is what works for me, and I'm excited to eventually upgrade. Honestly, if I did ever upgrade, I'd probably New Game Plus Wukong just to see like how much better it looks.
I can't even explain to you. Like, if I could somehow show you what I see on my end, it's so much. It's so much better. I can't even explain.
That's called streaming, Seb. That's called a lot of the cool kids are doing it these days.
Yeah, but even then, you won't get.
I know.
The native.
I know.
But although when you say if you had the money right now, or say next year, would you buy another laptop or would you invest in a desktop? Because obviously a desktop's stronger and you can upgrade it.
Right, desktop is strong. I'd still stick with a laptop. I'm not willing to go full gamer rig or whatever.
Yeah, because I asked that because obviously, I bought a gaming laptop this year as well because it complements my desktop. I got a 4070 laptop, which is not bad at all. Which is great, right? I only got it for $1,200, so your laptop was like what, 800? You said when you got it.
Yeah, and that was like 4 years ago during when everybody got like the stimulus packages and stuff like that. So I had like a lot of money on my hands, and I was like, I don't know what the fuck to do with it. so I just bought like a 1680 or whatever my laptop is.
So my point is, for the time next year when you have the money to get a laptop like that, you're gonna be able to get a 40 series laptop. And you're gonna see like the monumental difference, like for around the same price, like let's say $1,000, you can especially on a Black Friday deal or something, you're gonna get a huge jump on those laptops. Obviously, a PC gamer is gonna recommend getting a desktop because there's a lot of limits you're limited when you're on a laptop because you really can't upgrade it that much. But if that's what you like, then that's great, right? So, you're in a good spot because you can get a fantastic laptop in the future for a great price. I'm
thinking it's going to happen during the summer because I work for the Y, and basically like they can't lower my wages from like fall to summer. So if I keep this job into the summer, which I don't know, we'll see. But then I will be making like almost like $18 per 40 hours or something, and that for me, like that's a huge amount of money. Yeah. So I think next summer, if everything goes well, I will hopefully be getting either a 30 or a 40 or something like that. I was looking up 30s and like they're roughly what I paid for this one.
Which is pretty good. And that's a huge jump.
Yes.
What you have like basically a Fred Flintstone laptop. No offense.
I'm actually moving my feet as I speak right now and saying yabba dabba doo. So.
No. It's time next year, but obviously when you get the funds, like not everybody has that luxury. Not that I make a ton of money, I'm a teacher, but and I don't have
notoriously rolling in it.
yeah,
Profession.
and I don't have kids. So that probably helps too. All right, so
Right. Yeah.
moving on. PS5 Pro doesn't really appeal to any of us, but I think it's a cool option for somebody that wants to. If I was a PS5 gamer still, I'd be all over this because I always want to have the best version of the game of the console. And obviously, the big thing out of that article too was the GTA 6 thing, because the GTA 6 obviously is huge for Sony because I'd imagine Rockstar is going to make most of their money off PlayStation. It's going to be a monumental seller on PlayStation.
It's going to be huge. I mean, just look at how well they did in terms of views. I mean, I don't even think it's a risk or anything like that. They're like, we're really banking on GTA. I'm like, yeah, the GTA that like got 1 million views in 1 hour or some shit, right?
Yeah.
Like that's Taylor Swift levels. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, so the PS5 Pro is mainly made for GTA 6, basically. All right.
Yeah.
So moving on to Nintendo Indie Direct, which Dory watched. I did not watch it at all.
A loser.
I was working and I looked at like some of the games, and there is a lot of games. There are several games that stood out to me, but overall, just not for me because I don't really play Nintendo like that. But Dory has a list of games, and so
I sure do.
Go ahead, Dory. What are those?
Yeah.
games?
So I think most of these will appeal to Seb as well. So I won't go over all the games. I'll just go over the ones that look good to me, and that's 5 games.
Yeah.
So the first one I want to talk about is by the same people who made the critically acclaimed Grease. You might remember Grease as that beautiful, picturesque PC game. They have a new game called Neva or Neva. I don't know. I like to say it like Neva because like a Bostonian or a New Yorker. Like I'm never gonna do that. Anyway,
no, I always think of the Alfred in the Batman. Was it Dark Knight or whatever Batman Begins? He's like, give up on me. He's like, never.
Never. That's right. That's a good one too. Never. Anyway, it's an emotionally charged adventure that chronicles the story of Alba, a young woman bound to a curious young wolf cub named Neva. They embark on a perilous journey through a once beautiful world as it falls into decay around them. So yeah, it looks. I mean, just look at the trailer. It's fucking. I don't even know. Like, if I thought Grease looked good, this is on like another level. The colors are so vibrant. The art direction, aesthetic are stunning. I mean, this is probably day one for me. I thought Grease was an excellent game. It was kind of boring in spots or like a little confusing, and I didn't completely get the story. But the aesthetic and art design, and like it's a pretty short game too, so I never felt like my time was being wasted. It just was so hauntingly beautiful that like it was still like an excellent game for me. It looks like this game is gonna have a little bit more combat, a little bit of gameplay, maybe even some bosses here and there. So I think that they're updating their model a little bit to have slightly better gameplay. It's a pretty short trailer, only like a minute. But yeah, I don't know. There's not much else to say. But it's Neva, and it's going to be coming out. I want to say
October 15th.
October 15th. Thank you, Seb. I was looking for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, Seb, did you have any interest in this?
Absolutely. I platinum Grease, and
Nice.
and I really liked Grease, but I do agree with Dory's criticism of it. Like I love the art style. I love the music. And it was visually,
music too. Music, yes.
It's visually stunning. The music's one of the best ever. It's actually I had it in my Spotify playlist. But it was boring at times. Like I feel like the game needed gameplay. Like that wasn't just like walk left and right and jump. Like there needed to be a little more spicier. So this game looks like a better version of Grease, which is amazing because Grease is awesome. Great game. Yes. Great indie game.
Correct.
But it's not going to appeal to everybody. This is a game you have to be really into these kind of indie games where it has like kind of obscure. These games are obscure niche storytelling where it's not always clear to you. You have to kind of just absorb the music and just get into it. Like it's not going to be for everybody. If you're like Call of Duty gamer, this is not for you, right? This is for the indie, snobby artistic people like us.
They're like us, absolutely. Yeah. So that's Neva.
Yeah, I'm excited. This is day one for me, probably.
Yeah, it's probably day one for me too. Next game I want to highlight. I didn't want to highlight it first, but then I went back and looked at the trailer and the description. Moth Cubit. Kind of like if Earthbound and this is one of the comments on the trailer, but kind of like if Earthbound and Hollow Knight and Undertale had like a kid. It's a very experimental looking RPG. The description of it doesn't really help, but it's basically you're trying to climb the corporate ladder of an insect mega corporation. It's a very surreal RPG, and there's some kind of sinister event known as the final process looming. You have to investigate it through lots of verbal showdowns, they say, with multiple dialogue choices. So this is a very strange looking game, but it looks very fun, and I like what I'm seeing. I loved Undertale, of course, one of my favorite games of all time.
It's like,
and I, think this looks like a really good kind of bug mix on it. There's like there's puzzles. There's some like various mini games, like painting, I guess,
and DDR.
Golf. It's just absolutely fucking bonkers.
Galaga.
There's some, Galaga. There's some stuff about like making charts. I think one of them is like you playing volleyball. 1 out of 10, too many insects.
Yeah, it's like WarioWare with like Hollow Knight's design. Like WarioWare, all the randomness with the mini games just thrown at you.
For sure.
That's what it gives me. That's the vibes I'm getting. Does this appeal to you though, or like would you play this?
Yeah, it does. I will pay attention to reviews on this one. It's not day one for me necessarily, but I definitely will be paying attention and looking for like my fellow indie weirdos and see if they like this. It looks like it kind of reminds me of Turnip Boy Robs a Bank and Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion in terms of its like kind of quirky humor. Mm-hmm. You could see during the trailer that there's like a bunch of fake reviews from obviously fake outlets. Like I just said, 1 out of 10, too many insects from Insect Hater magazine. So it definitely has a very oddball sense of humor, but I love oddball senses of humor. So this looks interesting to me. It's not day one, and it's not like I'm over the moon about it, but I think it looks really cool, and I'm interested to see what reviewers think about it.
Yeah, for me personally, I love indie games, but this one doesn't really appeal to me personally. But
it's very wacky. The next game though better appeal to you, Seb. We'll be exchanging some words. Sea of Stars has a new DLC coming out, and it's fucking free, which I couldn't believe. Coming out in spring 2025. It's called Throes of the Watchmaker. If you all don't know, Sea of Stars is an awesome turn-based RPG. Part of me getting into turn-based RPGs was Sea of Stars, but also the Yakuza games, Like a Dragon, and I want to say there was another game as well. But yeah, Sea of Stars was a big part of that, and it's kind of a clock world aesthetic, as you might guess from the Watchmaker thing. It's free. It's free, like I said. You can transform into different types of carnival people. So Zale transforms into a skilled juggler, and Valaire dazzles as an acrobat. And then they have a new playable character named Artie. They explore new areas, traverse new dungeons, and encounter new enemies, bosses, and puzzles in their quest to save the world of Horloge. It will also support the upcoming local co-op mode, allowing players to team up with 2 others for group adventuring. So that's really cool. I didn't know that part. But I love Sea of Stars. It was a really great game. It had some problems, and I think it's not perfect, but I had a blast with it. I think the music is top tier. The graphics are stunning. The gameplay is really good. There's some overly long boss fights, and some bosses heal themselves. I also think that the true ending of the game, I really don't like, and I'm glad I didn't get it. I think it's a pain in the ass to get, and it's not even, to me, not very satisfying. But generally speaking, I love Sea of Stars, and I'm so excited. I did not expect DLC, but I'm really excited there will be.
Yeah, like my opinion is exactly the same as yours. I really like Sea of Stars. It was great. I beat it. I didn't get the true ending, but I looked at it. I looked it up on YouTube, and I didn't really care for it. But I was happy to beat it. I loved it. The music was great. Gameplay was great. The visuals were incredible, especially on the Steam Deck OLED. And it's an amazing game. 100%. If you're into JRPGs, or it's not even a JRPG, but if you're into that kind of style of gameplay, this is for you. And I'm excited to play it. I will play this maybe day one. I don't know what's around. What depending on what comes out in March or whatever. Was this? Would you say
It's
March?
yeah, it's spring 2025, so we don't have an exact date.
Yeah. So we'll see. I'll play it at some point, but it just depends what's around at the time. But yeah, this definitely appeals to me. All right, Dory. What's the next game?
Next game, I don't even know if I'll play this, but I just think this looks fucking batshit. It's called Morsels. It's a you play as a mouse and fight against the evils of predatory cats in this grungy yet whimsical top-down action roguelike. Very picky about my roguelikes. Don't know if I'll like this, but you meet a sentient. It's called a Fatberg, I guess. With the help of some magical cards, allow you to transform into mighty little monsters called, you guessed it, morsels. Set off to the upper worlds with your newfound powers, collect other morsels, and strategically transform into them as you make use of their unique abilities. So this is another really wacky indie game. It definitely stands out among all the other games. I mean, it's got a close-up of a pigeon with glowing red eyes. There's a lot going on in this trailer, honestly, and I hesitate to even describe what I'm seeing on screen right now. But yeah, there's some cool RPG elements. Obviously, there's some roguelike elements. And I don't even know what to describe what I'm looking at. There's a lot going on. There is an alien on top of a dishwasher, or a monster, I guess. But yeah, Morsels. It looks really cool. It's coming out February 2025. I don't know if I'll play it, but I thought it really stood out. It even if I'm not going to play a particular game, I will at least praise it for standing out and looking very unique.
Yeah, the art design stands out to me, but it's not something I would play.
Yes. Yeah, I'm iffy about it. I'll look at reviews, and if it gets really good reviews, I'll definitely consider it. But I just wanted to highlight it just because it looks so cool, and I wanted to highlight the kind of weirder games. Yeah. Last game I want to mention is the Plucky Squire. We've already talked about the Plucky Squire a couple times. But it did finally get a release date trailer, which is important, of course. That's coming out September 17th, 2024. Very close by, right around the corner, really. And I'm very excited. It looks really good. The storybook kind of iconography looks cool. The gameplay looks fun. Mixing 2D and 3D is really interesting. You don't see that done a lot just because it takes a lot of work. But it looks like a really nice time. I don't know if I'm day one, but I'll definitely be looking, as I always say, looking for reviews. But I'm pretty interested, and I might get this on the Switch or the PC.
Yeah, this is day one for me. I know it's coming. I think it's coming to PS Plus day one. I'm not sure.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if it's coming to Game Pass day one, but either way, I'm getting it on Steam. I love everything about this game. This is definitely a me game. I love the mix between 2D and 3D. I love a 3D platformer, but also like a top down Zelda-esque 2D view as well. It's just the storybook concept is so clean and awesome, and it's just nice to look at. It just has all these unique mechanics, like I'm looking at the gameplay right now, and it's like putting the date, or I don't know if that's part of the game, but because they're doing the thing with the release date, but I'm sure it's gonna be something like that with the words. Probably got to do some.
Yes, you can mix the words around, and that's how you solve puzzles.
Yeah.
So sometimes it'll be like, the day was very long, and then you can switch around. So the night was very long, and then suddenly it'll become night, and you can access areas. That's just an example I made up, by the way. It's not necessarily in the game, but yeah.
It might possibly end up being my indie game of the year. Like, this is something I've been really this is the game I've been thinking about since like last year. Like, oh yeah, I can't wait to play this game. I've had my eye on this game for a long time. I feel like I've seen this at the State of Play. Maybe it was like last year. Like
It's definitely been around for a bit now.
Early last year, I feel like. So yeah, I'm probably day one unless I have like no time to play it. But this is definitely up my alley, and I'm glad that it's getting a release date that's literally right around the corner. Like tomorrow is September, so we're talking like 3 weeks. So yeah, I'm totally into this. And that's all your games, Dory?
Yeah, that was the 5 games that really stood out to me. Everything else was like mixes of or we've talked about it before, or doesn't interest me.
Yeah, Nintendo Indie Show doesn't really appeal to me. And when they do show indie games that I like, they're usually on other platforms anyway. So Switch is a fantastic indie machine, but I would rather buy them on Steam. All right, so that is that. So now we're at our last topic of the night. Obviously, this episode won't be as long as last week. But there's a couple games that I want to talk about. The big one, which is obviously the thumbnail of this show, is the World of Warcraft: The War Within, the new expansion that just came out. I have plenty to say. I know Dory doesn't mess with Blizzard at all and wouldn't know anything about this, of course. But I think I can carry this topic for a little bit myself because
I think you got this, and I've been talking a lot anyway, so you got this.
Yeah. So World of Warcraft, obviously, has been around since 2004. This is the 20th anniversary, and I've been playing World of Warcraft since I was 11 years old in 2004, which is the same age of my students that I teach. So that's something. I played World of Warcraft in 6th grade, and I've been playing it on and off for 20 years. It's the most played game I ever put. It's the most played game I've ever played. Like I've put, God, 20,000 to 50,000 hours into this game. Like this is my top 6 game of all time, maybe top 5. I love World of Warcraft to an extent. There's been times where I hate this game or like just want to quit, and I think War Within is a great expansion for the first time people. Like I feel like there's a lot of things you'll be into. There's a lot of promising things about this expansion. For starters, I think the story's a lot better. I think the Dragonflight which is the last expansion, wasn't as interesting. The storyline was just so mid. Like I had zero interest in the storyline. Everything was just so lame. It was just lame. This one feels like it has more stakes. I feel like the campaign missions are really good. Like I feel like the storyline is. I'm not saying the storyline is like The Last of Us or anything. It's not like amazing. It's fine. It's pretty good. I'm not like. I think the villain is. She's not a bad villain or anything. She's just like. I don't know. She's like. Blizzard has a way of like the villains are like too perfect. Like they always have a scheme for everything, and it's like they never seem to make any mistake. It's like everything is pre-planned. Like they're always 10 steps ahead. I always feel like that's like lazy writing. I always feel like a villain should have like flaws themselves and make them more interesting characters. And whatever. I know people were criticizing this game has a weird obsession with her feet for whatever reason. Like they keep showing her feet in cutscenes. So I don't know if that's something what's going on with the devs, but that's the thing. But in terms of the expansion themselves, the storyline is good. The story campaign stuff is good. The visuals of the new land is really incredible. Like it's amazing. It really stands out. The artist did an absolute incredible job with the art design of this world. And because basically what happened was a Titan, Sargeras, stabbed Azeroth with the giant sword and put a hole in the earth and basically Azeroth the planet. And you go
Azeroth Metreon sent those, so I get it.
And you go underground to like where all the stone dwarves live, which are called the Earthen, and then the bad guy is Xalatoth. I don't know if you're saying her name. She's like an elf that uses the void, so she's like dark magic kind of thing. So it's a pretty good story. It's just not the best, and I think people are gonna really enjoy like the visuals of everything. I think the missions are varied enough where it's gonna be interesting. The lore is gonna appeal to people. But I think the problem with it is that once you complete all the main missions and stuff, and the main quest, and you do everything you can, there's not really much else to do. And then you start getting into the problems with modern World of Warcraft, where it's like they throw in time gated or at least time abundant activities that are just like feel like you're not getting really anywhere, or you have to make it a full-time job to do anything. And it gets frustrating when you have a full-time job and you're an adult. You're not 15 anymore, can stay up to 7 in the morning and play games. And this game still has that. Like once you complete everything, like all there is to do is like the world quests, and their world quests are just they just get boring after a while. And Garing's just not fun. Like it doesn't feel like you're making a lot of progress with with your like your armor. Like it just doesn't feel like you're gaining any power to me. It's and I hate the fact that like the dungeons are so and the dungeons and the raids, but the raids are not out yet, but the dungeons are like they add so many mechanics. They're like so obscure and you have to like figure it out. And it's like I know people like think like, oh, everybody nowadays is stupid and can't handle mechanics, but we have to look everything up. But no, I mean like they throw so much at you. Like there's always like everybody in the party is getting damaged at all times, and like you always have to constantly dodge like the floor because like they put like it's like an AOE effect and like the floor gets highlighted and you have to move out of the highlight and it's like it gets very frustrating. Like especially when you're a mage like I am, my character's meant to stay still, but I have to keep moving constantly because there's so many million mechanics. And like even like in the past expansion, where like you fight these bosses and like they want you to do like with 30 people in your raid, they want you to do everything perfectly. Like you have to make sure you're in sync with each other. If one person makes a mistake, the whole raid gets wiped, and it's just very frustrating because like they throw so much. The fact that you have to have add-ons in this game, like add-ons meaning like extra stats, extra boxes on your screen to help you to play this game is frustrating. It's like you're just over-tuning your game way too much. There's just so much going on the screen. Like it's just way too much stimulus on the screen. And when you play this game, it's very. I've been playing this game a long time, and WoW always had mechanics and stuff, but compare like modern WoW to like 2005 WoW, where it was like you would stand still and fight a big dragon and that was it. Because obviously all we had was like dial up and old school like old Wi-Fi. So obviously computers weren't as strong as now, obviously. But it's just overtuned, is what I'm saying. The cool concept that they added in this expansion more than anything, obviously, was the delves. The delves are dungeons that you can do by yourself, which is cool because obviously it can be frustrating to find players in dungeons because when you play with randoms, they don't really follow, they don't talk to you, and they'll just blitz through the content, and you really can't enjoy yourself. Delves are more like Diablo, where you can do the whole dungeon by yourself, and there's always an objective to do it, and you get really good armor for doing it and stuff. And it's like there's a lot of levels to it, so you can go hard. You can keep increasing the difficulty. It's a really cool concept on paper, but I find it very frustrating. I don't really find them that appealing. I feel like they're too long and tedious, and I just can't see myself sticking with it. So I really think the concept of it is really awesome. I think I know it's MMO and you should play with people, but at the same time, you need to have enough solo content to keep people going. Because I think the problem overall is what I'm saying to summarize it is that once you get past the initial like first week where you get all the missions done, the storyline, you get all the complete everything on the map, right? Then you just get hit with the typical all the part-time, like basically the full-time job stuff you have to do. I have to do this to gear up. I have to do mythic and raids, and I have to gear up. I have to craft, and I have to do this. And like all of a sudden you have 1,000 things on your map, and like everybody has a quest icon over their head, and you feel overwhelmed. It's like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, overwhelming. And then I always just get like at the point where I'm like, I don't want to play anymore. And that's basically what happened. I did everything I wanted to do, and now I'm kind of like at that point where the raid's not out yet, season 1 hasn't started yet. I'm already kind of not in the mood to play it anymore. So overall, I think it's a really good expansion, a lot of great steps, but I just don't see myself sticking with it because first of all, I have a full-time job, I'm very busy, and I don't know how to balance MMO WoW with playing other games. You know what I mean? It's like it's just near impossible for me to do that. So I know I've been talking a lot. I just wanted to say on that it's really great at first. I think if you like when you first play it, I think you're gonna have a blast for the first week. But then you're starting to start seeing the modern trends of WoW again, where like all they care about is money, and Activision's fingers are still in everything. Where you can buy a WoW token, they want you to spend money. I still think that early access thing was bullshit. And even though I did buy the Epic Edition because like a long time ago, because I want to, so I'm being a bit of a hypocrite. But in the future, I won't be doing that. That 3 days extra really didn't do anything for me. Activision was being scummy by charging people $20 more to play a game three days before everybody else. But yeah, just modern WoW. I just don't have the time for it anymore. Like I can't play games like the Plucky Squire or like Black Myth Wukong and play WoW at the same time. I just can't. I can't even do. I can barely do a podcast if I play WoW because it's something I have to play at all times, and it wouldn't really be good content if I talked about WoW for every single week, right? So that's really how I feel about it. Is that I think it's a great expansion. I think people are gonna have a blast with it. Um, but I think people, if you're already not fan of modern WoW, it's not really gonna keep you sucked in. I think. And if you do like modern WoW, then this is up your alley. Then you're gonna have a blast. But I do think you're gonna get to the point where you completed everything, and you're gonna be sitting around waiting for the next patch. WoW always does new patches every couple months or so, where the new something new comes out, and then you do the same raid for like 1,000 times, and then you get tired of doing that same raid 1,000 times, and then you sit around do nothing again, wait for the next thing come out, and it just becomes that cycle of boredom basically. So it's a good expansion, but what I'm saying is not for me anymore. I feel like WoW is not for me anymore. Like I still have it, and I played for a whole year, so I have it until next June. So if I want to jump into it, I can. So it's not like the end of the world, but yeah, I know it's not something to appeal to Dory, and I don't. I hope this game is successful, but I just feel like I can't balance real life work and regular games with an MMO. So that's that.
Yeah, makes sense to me.
Yeah, and then another game I've been playing, which we'll talk about now, is Black Myth Wukong. Black Myth Wukong. I basically went back, restarted the whole game, did all the side content that I missed, because I felt like I wasn't getting the full experience if I just like do the main stuff only. So I've done every single thing you can do for the first 3 chapters. Like I've done everything. Like I have every achievement that you can achieve in the first three chapters. And I am now in chapter 4, back where I was, but not with all the more content, more gear, all that stuff. And my performance is still great, although I've noticed more issues in chapter 4. Like later in 3 and 4 is when the issues are starting to pop up. Like I think the game is worse than how I felt last week. Not that it's still my second favorite game of the year, and I still love it. But it's not a 5 out of 5 anymore for me. It's more like a 4.5 now, because there's certain issues I'm having with the game. Like first of all, like the pagoda realm thing with the dungeon, that like it was a perfect example. It is a perfect example. It exemplifies like my issue with the map and the fact that you get lost, and it doesn't. I wish this game had a map. Like I really wish this game had a map. Like it's very confusing. Like Elden Ring has a map. I don't see why you couldn't have a map in this game. Because we were talking about how linear it was in the past, but like it's kind of an open world. Like it gets really open area a lot of times, and it's easy to get lost.
You haven't even seen the height of it. It gets more open area as you go further into the game. So.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's been frustrating at times, and
yes.
No, I still think the game is like moderately difficult. Like this is like normal difficulty. Like I still feel like I'm beating every boss within 5 tries, outside maybe a couple.
I would say my gear is so good at this point, and I've learned enough at this point that I beat most bosses 5 tries or less, usually 3 tries or less. By chapter 4, I pretty much feel like most bosses can't beat me unless they have some kind of BS gimmick. Then they have a chance, but even then they probably only beat me like a couple times.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's gotten significantly easier. I would say chapter 1 and 2 are the hardest, just because you have the least amount of stuff to work with, and then chapter 3 is that part where you kind of get up that, like you get to the peak kind of like,
yeah,
okay, like I'm finally getting really good gear, really good equipment, really good spirits, soaks, everything. Yeah, so I'm on chapter 6 now. And so, but yeah, go ahead, Seb.
Yeah, so the side content is really good. I really like the side missions. It's sad that I missed it the first time. And now I experienced it. I really liked it. The beetle fight in chapter 2 was great. I thought it was really cool. I like the side characters. I like the wolf spirit guy. I forget his name. He pops in and just like gives you a potion and stuff. I like his voice actor. I like his character. I love the pig guy you team up with. I forget his name, but he's like
by J, but
yeah.
by G. I forget his.
I just call him Oolong because that's what Oolong's based on him.
Yeah, it's basically Oolong. Yeah.
Yeah, because original Dragon Ball is just based on Journey of the West. All right, so
correct.
I just call him Oolong. I really like his character, and I like the Buddhist little. I like the little Buddhist guy, the kid, the monk guy. He's funny.
Cute little pot belly guy.
Yeah. So my opinion is mostly the same. It's just that just some little here and there that where I have like the problems starting to appear. And there's some pop-ins now. The frame rate's still consistent for me, but it has its moments where it drops a little bit, but not where it's substantially. I have a high.
I'm very curious how your PC is going to handle Chapter 6.
Yeah. I'll let you know. I plan on getting Chapter 4 beaten tonight. Now that like I'm not like gonna be watching football as much. Like I'll have it in the background, but like obviously I can focus on the game again. And I think I'm gonna get through Chapter 4 tonight. And I hope to beat this game by this weekend because it's Labor Day weekend. Yeah. And because once I was pushing through things and beating bosses within 5 tries, like I feel like I'm flying through it. So because I know where I'm doing now. Obviously I already did the first 3 chapters, so I know where to go and things. I think it's a really great game. It's my second favorite game of the year. I don't think it's gonna be my game of the year. I've thought about it, and I just feel like there's elements of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth that just beat it for me. I think the story in Final Fantasy VII is just a lot better, and I feel like the characters are more memorable and the music. But this game is like my second favorite in a lot of ways, as we talked about last week. So I won't get into it now, but it's a great game, and I really love it. It's just not a perfect game, of course. No game is perfect. Yeah. But it's not a 5 out of 5 anymore. It's a 4.
But it's got some glaring issues.
Yeah, some glaring issues. Obviously, like Baldur's Gate 3 last year, the Act 3 fell off a bit with the performance. Like, not a bit, right. a lot. But it didn't do enough to affect me. But this game, what affects me is the lack of map and getting lost and the frustration of like running around too much. Like that's what frustrates me. Sometimes I wish this game was a bit more of a boss rush than it really is. Like, because like obviously this game has a shitload of bosses, but I would have preferred if it was just a little more linear. Like I know some people are gonna disagree with that, but I would just prefer like it was less of like a giant open world all the time, and more of like just this open area you can go here and here like God of War, but it's still
there's too many branching paths. It's too easy to get lost and feel turned around. And I it's easy for me to get turned around, so I'm sure that doesn't help. But I mean, I know I'm not the only person. Obviously, Seb just said, but I know we're not the only people who have been saying this game needs a map. There are some mods, but I haven't noticed the map mod that I installed do anything. I can't figure out how it works. It's not working for me in terms of like the map design. I find it very frustrating. I think by the time I got to chapter 3 or 4, I said, fuck it. I'm just using a guide for everything. That's what I wanted to do it organically and find places organically. But by the time I was like halfway through the game, I was like, you know what? Like, forget it. Just to say how far I've come, I'm in chapter 6. I have probably one of the best weapons in the game. Probably one of the best armor sets in the game, although it's not complete because you need to do New Game Plus to complete it. I also have a ton of spirits. My gourd is really good. A lot of really good like medicine and soaks and stuff, pills. I'm using a secret boss as one of my transformations. I won't say who, but he's really awesome. It's a really cool transformation. I have been still loving the game, but I do have some criticisms. Obviously, we already talked about the map. I don't need to talk about that. I may have mentioned this last week. I do find it very frustrating that there is no retry button, or that there is no autosave, or that there are certain bosses don't have shrines anywhere near them. So like you don't have to implement a retry button. There's lots of different options that Game Science had here. You could have just made autosave right before. And sometimes they do. Sometimes they have those like banners or something, those like white banners right before a certain boss, and it will bring you back right before the boss. But those are pretty sparse. Every now and then I will have, there's a frog boss who is in he's in the spider, he's in the web tallow. and he's like a poison frog, I think. And I did like 2 tries, and I gave up. Not because he was overly difficult, but because every time I wanted to fight him, I would have to waste like invisibility just to get over to him, to go through a crevice, to go around, to go down some stairs, and then fight him. And it's like, I know it doesn't sound like much, but over time it adds up. And it's, gamers call it the walk of shame, right? It just feels bad to lose and then have to walk minutes on end just to get back to it. It's, I want to say this is a minor gripe because I want to be nice to the game, but honestly, I feel like it is a serious issue that they need to fix somehow. Either add more shrines, add a retry button, or give me an autosave right before I fight a boss. And I understand that they don't want you getting trashed again and again if you're not ready, but then just give me an autosave right before I enter a certain area or whatever. There are ways around this. Other games have done it. For fuck's sake, Kingdom Hearts 3 did it in 2019. You could retry and prepare. You could just normal retry. You could continue. Lots of options. So I would love to see that implemented. That can make it very frustrating in certain circumstances. Not all of them. I will say it's not even most of them, but there are some bosses that it's like you have to constantly do the walk of shame back to, and it gets really frustrating. Other thing I'll complain about, it just feels like with your gourd use, the animation sometimes takes a long time, and maybe that's intentional to increase difficulty. But I feel like it just takes a while, or maybe it's input lag. I don't know. Every now and then Wukong just doesn't seem to do what I ask, and it can be frustrating because I'll press a transformation and I'll have to press left trigger B 3 times in a row just to make sure he does it. Or if I'm trying to take a pill to reduce a certain kind of damage, I'll mash on the buttons because I don't know. Sometimes I press it just once casually and it doesn't go through. And that could be my PC. I don't know.
I think this game has an issue where when you get stuck in a combo, and I wish there was a button. I wish there was a way to stop your combo in the middle of it.
Yes,
you kind of get stuck.
It would be nice if there was canceling. Canceling would be great.
There needs to be a cancel button because you get stuck in a combo and you can't stop, and the boss will just smack you a couple times because you can't stop.
Absolutely.
That's frustrating.
Yeah, it gets really frustrating. The game tries to compensate for this by giving you a damage reduction when you're doing a heavy attack and you can't stop yourself. But I mean, that can only go so far. There is a mod for action canceling. I didn't pick it up because I just felt like that was against the spirit of the game. But it would be nice if, hypocritically, it would be nice if Game Science would include some action canceling. Just make gourd use a little faster, just 0.5 seconds. I'm not saying it needs to be lightning fast. I understand that you're leaving yourself wide open for attack, and maybe in Souls games, this is just a part of it. Is that using your gourd or whatever is, a quick way to die if you're not paying attention enough, which is fair. That's fine. But it can be frustrating. I even had a couple of situations where I heard the noise for me using my gourd. It went through and then I got hit and I died anyway. And that can be frustrating for me.
Yeah.
So let's see. There's a couple other things too. The retry, that. The performance stuff. It's gotten worse, definitely for me over time. I'm not going to be too harsh on Wukong about that because obviously I'm not using the kind of PC they want me to use for it. But I still have to call it out. It's still very noticeable. There are shadow flickering, lots of really bad draw distance. Models always look fine, weirdly enough, and the environment looks great as long as you don't squint at it too much. But yeah, there's some really bad draw distance, some really bad shadowing, really bad light flickering every now and then. I had to install a couple mods just to stabilize some of those issues. Nothing game breaking. I have had a couple crashes, but that was the minority of the time. And I was fortunate because none of those came in a situation where, I was in the middle of a boss fight or something. So I got lucky, unlike the IGN reviewer. But that definitely could have happened. One of them was just me entering the pause menu and then exiting, and then that game decided to crash. And then another was I looked a little too quickly or something, or tried to render background too quick. I don't know exactly what the game thought, but the game just crashed. So that was frustrating. I think the game is just, I agree with you. I wish it was more linear. I wish it was as linear as people was worried it was, because the game is not as linear as I thought it would be. It felt like, oh, there's all these optional paths you can go to, but half the time you don't even know that it's an optional path. And it can get really frustrating to try to find your way back. They do give you a talisman to send you back to the last used shrine, so that's nice. And then you can use guides from there if you still need help. But yeah, I mean, I've had to use guides. I was using the IGN guide up until chapter 4. And then they don't have a guide updated till then, so I had to use other websites. But but despite all those criticisms, I still think it's an excellent game. It's not going to be a number one. It never was really. But it's in my top 5. Right now, it's number 4. I think it's right above Harold Halibut. I honestly will laugh if like somehow Harold Halibut beats out Wukong. But it's really close. I thought Harold Halibut was an incredible game. So it's. I mean, I'm not memeing. I think that's an excellent game with really good storytelling and a good heart and stuff like that. But I still love Wukong. I still think it's an excellent game. I've stayed up way too late, more than one night, playing this game. I love it a lot. I probably owe Kim a day for her at some point. So I know that I've been playing this a lot. I think I have over 40 hours. Right now, I'm in chapter 6. I'm in the last chapter. I think I'm about 1/5 of the way done. I know because really chapter 6 is just about getting, I won't say anything too specific, but just getting specific items through bosses. And then once you do that, you fight the final boss and then you're done. Mm-hmm. So like I figured, chapter 6 is the shortest. Well, depending on how quickly you find the bosses and beat them. Because there's not a lot of optional paths per se. I don't want to say too much without spoiling it, but basically, yeah, a lot of the worst parts of Wukong are in chapter 6, unfortunately, for me. And I still think it's an excellent game despite that, because the gameplay is just that good. And the models look that good, and the music is that good. I still don't completely understand the story, but I will say that having done some of the secret areas, I've done the secret areas for almost every single chapter except chapter 1. And chapter 3, but I think you need to beat the game to go back there.
My understanding is that you're not a descendant of Wukong, or you're kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like you're trying to become him again, like you're getting all his powers back, I guess.
Yes, that's what I've gotten as well. You're one of many, I guess, and or you're declared the one of one.
I don't remember, but I feel like you're just trying to become him, like he's trying to get his power back or something. I don't know. Like that.
Yeah. It's not completely clear, unfortunately, but that's not surprising at this point. But yeah, there's been a lot of characters I've really liked. I love Zhu-Dog. I genuinely think his voice actor is really good.
That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, Zhu-Dog. You craft within and craft without to get pills or whatever. Dude says the word pills a lot. And you could make a drinking game based on it. It's really funny. Shout out to my Nana, but the dragon who you can get in the hub area reminds me a lot of her. And just the way he talks, I won't say anymore. And then of course there's Yin Tiger who you can beat to get a transformation, and I did that. I didn't really care for his transformation. It's very slow. It's very powerful, but it's very slow. The macaw monkey is really good too. But yeah, there's really, it's still really, really good. There are some bosses late game that I feel like they had to make them kind of BS-y, because it feels like a D&D campaign where you're getting to be like level 15, level 20, where like bosses just kind of have to have some kind of BS gimmick for you to be threatened at all. Definitely get that vibe from some of the late game bosses, just because they either attack incredibly fast with very little telegraphing, or their attacks freeze you, or they are just invincible. And so, but still, most of that is negligible, I feel like, because you are so overpowered at that point that it's not really a big deal. There's literally some pills that can save your life, or give you a second chance, and obviously that's huge. So yeah, I think this is an excellent game. It's not going to be my number one. But I would love to replay it on the PS5 if it ever gets better if it ever gets better performance, or more likely what will happen is if I get a new PC, I want to see this game actually as it was intended, because I am not getting the intended result, which is impressive because I'm still pressing F12 a lot to take screenshots during meditation spots, or if I like enter a new area and like the Chinese and English goes up, and sometimes I take a picture there too. I always take a picture or screenshot whenever I beat a boss, just because I'm really excited. I've done a lot of bosses, honestly, in the first try. I believe I did the chapter 4 end boss in one try, and chapter 5 in like 2 tries, which is always really exciting. So yeah, I still love the game. I still think it's excellent, but like Seb said, there are some issues holding it back. If this game had a retry option or any of the other suggestions I made in a map and was better optimized for lower end PCs like mine, this would be like probably a 5 out of 5 for me. But as is, it's more like a 4.5 or like a 9 out of 10. It's an excellent game, but it's held back, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think it's held back by the design, like the game design. I like that. Like
Yeah.
the performance hasn't been an issue for me as a high end PC. I think where the game, still a great game, my second favorite game of the year so far, is just the some of the ideas of like, I wish the storyline was more clear. This is a very Chinese game though, so I guess it's just a different. I'm a Western audience, so it's different. But I wish it was more accessible for me, a Western, I guess, person that wants to be invested in the story. But I think where the game suffers, even though it's a great game, is just having a lack of map, frustration. Some mechanics just like feel gimmicky, as you mentioned. There's like minor things that build up that keep it from being like a 5 out of 5. That's what I'm saying. Like that's like it's like small things here and there that all build up to one big problem. So
Right, exactly. Yeah, this is definitely a death by 1,000 cuts kind of situation where
yeah.
I brush off a certain issue and then it comes back and then another issue comes up and I'm like, okay, I can't keep overlooking this. Like, I want to say it's an incredible game. That's really like where I was for a little bit. Excellent, bordering on incredible, so kind of like a 4.75 or some shit. But eventually, too many issues for me to fully say that it's incredible. I do think it's a really good game, really strong. I think once they did have a patch come out, but I haven't noticed it do much for me personally. Like I said, I had to turn to some mods to increase performance, and even then, like, I had to kind of mess with them to get the right results. But there's some cool stuff out there for mod support if anyone's interested. You can play as Tifa, you can play as Goku, aka Wukong. You can play as Darth Maul. There's obviously some stuff about attack canceling, like I mentioned. There is a map mod, but I don't understand how it works, and it's in Chinese, so good luck. And there's other stuff too, like downgraded Wukong. You can get a lot of more frames per second, up to 50, but at a huge like loss in terms of like how it looks.
Yeah.
And then there's improved visuals, which is the reverse. So yeah, there's mod support out there. It's pretty easy to do. IGN even has a video on it. That's how easy it is. So go check it out if your PC is struggling. Obviously, if you're using PS5, I mean, rip. Good luck. But they did put out a patch, so hopefully that helps the PS5 players out, because I know they've been kind of left out in the lurch.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's Black Myth. I'm excited to play Stellar Blade after this.
Right. Is there another game you want to talk about, or do you want to wrap it up?
That's all I've been playing. That's all I've really had time for. I had some training this week, which kept me a little busy, but I am expecting to beat Black Myth either tonight or tomorrow. Probably tomorrow. I don't see myself beating all the bosses by tonight, unless I pull an all-nighter again, which I'm really trying not to, because it's ruining my sleep schedule. So yeah, again, like I said, don't get me wrong, Black Myth's an excellent game. It's ruining my sleep schedule right now. So obviously I'm enjoying it heavily. And I will probably do a new game plus. Maybe. I'd rather do a new game plus on a better PC though. That's kind of my thing. I'm not losing any frames really. Like, that's fine. It's just the shadows, the lights, the flickering, ray tracing stuff, which I don't even have access to because I'm running a 16 whatever. So that's really why I want to play it on a higher end PC, just because I know I'm not getting that full experience. But honestly, most of my problems are game design issues, like Seb said, not performance issues. Even though those have been there for me and they have brought down the game a little bit.
So,
but I would give up a lot of I would happily give up the graphical issues I'm having for a fucking retry button or a map.
Yeah.
I would give my soul for both those things.
So ultimately, I feel like I'm going to be I feel like this game is in a high 8s for me. That's what I would say. If I was grading it,
Yeah.
I would. It's not in the 9s because of the problems I mentioned, but the high 8s, and it's a great game. I know we sound negative, but these are not like giant things. These are just things that are all
Yes.
building up to, as you said, death by 1,000 cuts. That keep it from being a real great game. Do you?
Yes.
But I wonder if it will get nominated for Game of the Year. It might, because
I think so. I absolutely think so. I think this is the kind of game that gets nominated, especially after Elden Ring got nominated and won. I don't see this game winning, but I do see this game getting nominated. I think because of the technical difficulties it's had. I also think because of the controversy that the studio has brought on itself. But I do think it has enough goodwill from gamers that it has to inevitably get some kind of nomination for Game of the Year. Maybe Best Visuals, definitely not Best Narrative, but Best Action Game. It'll probably win, but I don't see it winning GOTY.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be. I think it'll get nominated, but I don't think it will win Game of the Year either. But that's another conversation.
Sure.
That'd be a good topic in the future. So that's our show. On the longer side, not as long as last week though. And next week is Astrobot, and I will get Visions of Mana this week as well. So that's probably what I will be playing after
Really sad news about that studio. We didn't talk about it, but they basically got closed down by Tencent, which fucking sucks.
Yeah, this is why. There's a reason why people hate Tencent, and
yeah,
it's unfortunate. I will be playing it. I
the
heard
game just came out and came out to pretty strong reviews. I mean, it wasn't like 9s and 10s, but I mean, 8s, and I think there were some 9s. It got pretty strong reviews.
The gameplay looks really fun, and I heard the visuals look great, and I heard the storyline is simple enough. It's just good. It's like I heard it's a very cozy, casual action.
It's a back to basics kind of RPG, from what I understand,
which is great. I have no issue with that, especially on the Steam,
me neither.
Especially on the Steam Deck. So, all right, that's our show. Thanks for watching. You all have a good night. Back to football. See you later. Bye.
Back to Black Myth.
Bye.
I wish you could pet Jew Dog. He seems like a nice guy.